Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Korlick with Figure It Out Productions. The following video is part of our Quick Shoot series.
Hey guys, it's Adam here, and as some of you might know, I recently took a trip to Seattle, Washington for PAX Prime 2014. So I wanted to talk to you kind of about my experience at PAX, some of the games I played there, and some of the other stuff I did, because I kind of had a little bit of a VIP tour there, which I'll explain as I go. But I want to preface this video by saying I'm not doing any kind of review here, I'm not showing you anything super exciting, I'm literally just kind of almost telling you about my vacation, which it wasn't a vacation because I was working, but telling you about my trip. So I figure there's like 6 of you that might be somewhat interested in that, so if you are, stick around. Alright, so if you're not already aware, I went to PAX Prime as a guest of Machinima. Yes, that Machinima. They sent me, along with my cohorts from my other channel, Game Society Pimps, out to PAX Prime. You know, they paid for our badges and all that stuff. And we just got to do a lot of cool things, as well as work at their booth. Now, the day I got there was August 28th, 2014. I got there in the morning. PAX doesn't actually start until the 29th, and only one of my cohorts was with me. Emery, if you guys watch Game Society Pimps, was with me. We were on the same flight. So we had basically the whole day to do kind of whatever, whereas my other two, Aaron Yanda and Jason Stevens, weren't catching a flight until later that evening. So as a result, we didn't have much to do for the first day. So what we decided to do, the first thing we went to was like, alright, we got to the hotel, I think we should be the typical tourist douchebags, and we should go to the first Starbucks. If you're not aware, the Starbucks Corporation started in Seattle, and the first one is still there. It's still something you can go to. And we decided to go. Took a bunch of selfie photos and all that kind of crap. Ended up buying a mug, as well as a special bag of coffee. This is something they apparently only sell there. It's a special blend made with cocoa and spices. I don't know exactly what that means, but it sure sounded good, so I figured I'd pick that up because I really like coffee. Now, I swear this isn't all about crap like coffee and touristy stuff. In fact, that's probably the only thing. Everything else is video game related, I promise you. In fact, I'll just leave this here so you have something to look at while I'm talking about this crap. So, at the end of that point, what I wanted to do was go game hunting, because I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but the Seattle, Washington area has, in my opinion, the best selection of game stores in all of the United States. I have been to a large part of the country. In my entire lifetime, I've been to all 50 states. I haven't gone game hunting in all of them, but I've been to a lot of places. I have never found a place with a better selection of game stores ever than Seattle, because I went there a couple of years ago, and that's how I found that out. This time around, I didn't have a car. I didn't have immediate access to do that, so it wasn't really going to be possible to do that, unfortunately. I was able to go to one, and I did a video on it, or I will be doing a video on it. I shot footage. You'll see that coming soon, but unfortunately, I only got to go to one, so rather than try to do that in that day when it wasn't going to be possible, we actually found out about something alternative that sounded really cool, so we decided to do it. Now, the day before the convention, Microsoft basically said, like, hey, we're going to do a thing where we pick you guys up in a bus. And when I say you guys, I mean the public, anyone who wants to go. It wasn't just us. We're going to pick you up in this tripped out bus for Sunset Overdrive, which, by the way, looks like an awesome game. And we're going to drive you out to Redmond, Washington, which is where Microsoft is based. It's about 20 minutes away from Seattle. So they picked everyone up at the convention center. We got on this bus. We were on the bus the whole time. And they went all out on this bus. It was like blasting music the whole time. It was repainted. The inside, the interior was totally done different. It had artwork up everywhere. They had like actors on the bus just acting like characters in the game. They actually gave us drinks. This is like a special power drink, whatever, that the main character drinks to charge up. It's called Overcharge Delirium XT. It is actually a drinkable beverage. It's some kind of energy drink, although I don't know what the actual original drink is. It might be like Red Bull for all I know. But it is something you can drink. I, of course, did not. Mine is sealed. I thought it would be just kind of cool to hang on to this. But they were giving that out on the bus. Now, they take us to the headquarters, right? And now you have to keep in mind, obviously, I was filming this, but I was the only person doing that. No one else had a camera. So I was walking off the bus, kind of somewhat paying attention to what I was doing, until someone else noticed out the window that Major Nelson, Xbox's Major Nelson, was just standing there waiting to greet everybody. So I went, oh, okay, Major Nelson's there. So I kind of stopped paying attention to what I was doing because I realized I was going to have to walk off this bus and shake the man's hand. So when I got off, sure enough, they actually had cameras on all of us. He said hello to everybody, shook my hand, and then we walked over to this other area. It was kind of nice to meet him. We walked over to this other area where they handed us all like free lanyards, which was really cool of them, that had little badges on them that said, you know, we were allowed to get inside. Now, what we were basically at was Microsoft's headquarters, so it's not usually something the public can just walk into, but they let us, of course, for this special event. Now, what the event actually was a demonstration of a lot of their indie games that they're working on at the moment, or that they're letting people make. So we go upstairs to this room that's just full of Xbox Ones and tons of indie games. And we got to play a bunch of them because we were basically the first people there. And the one that sticks out to my mind is a game called Fibbage. That game was a hell of a lot of fun. It actually uses Xbox One Smart Glass, which is never something I thought I would think was going to kick ass. I just thought that was kind of a nice little bonus thing, but they actually made a game using it that was awesome. It's basically like, the game will display on the TV, it'll display like a series of words, and you have to fill in the blank with your phone. And long and the short of it, it's kind of like Cards Against Humanity on a game console, which was really very cool. I had a lot of fun with that. There was a lot of cool stuff at that indie game demonstration. Ironically, though, I don't have much footage of it, and here's why. As I'm walking around shooting footage, a Microsoft employee walks up to me, and he says, "Were you the guy who was on the bus filming footage?" And I said, "Yeah, was that okay?" He's like, "Oh, no, it's fine." And he was like, "Did you get footage of you guys like getting on the bus and like walking off the bus and your time on the bus?" And I was like, "Yeah, I did." And he's like, "Okay, would it be okay with you, with your permission, if we copy the footage, because we want to do promo videos out of this event, and if we didn't have footage of that, so if it's cool with you, can we have that?" I was like, "Absolutely." So I don't know if they're going to end up using it or not, but you might see promo videos with my footage in it, which they claim they would credit me and everything. They got my information and all that. And so that was very cool. You might actually see me in some stuff later. We'll see. I don't know. That stuff might already be out there for all I know. I've never seen it. So if anybody sees any of these promo Microsoft videos, and possibly if there's footage on the bus and you see footage of me, then it came from me. But anyway, so I hand him the SD card from the camera, this camera that you're watching this on, that shot this. I hand him the card, and he just looks at it like he had never seen that type of SD card before. It's just a 64 gigabyte SDXC card, and he just goes like, "I don't know if we're gonna be able to use this." I'm like, in my head, I'm thinking like, this is the headquarters of Microsoft, but they weren't sure if they were actually gonna be able to read this SD card or not. Which, I don't know. There was something funny to me about that, because I use Windows 7. I mean, this isn't even like a Mac issue. I don't use Macs, so there was no formatting problems. But whatever. So he takes the card, and he apparently went off to go and try to get that to work. In the meantime, I'm just wandering around this thing, playing games and stuff, having a good time. And at one point, he eventually comes back and he gives me the card. He was able to get it to work. He apparently had to go from like building to building to building, trying to find an SD card reader that could read this card. So they got the footage, and that was all set, and that was great. So I actually asked him at that point if it'd be okay to meet Major Nelson a little bit more formally. I would just like to get a photo with him. And he said, "Usually we don't do that, but you helped us out with this footage thing, so I'm going to hook that up for you." And sure enough, he goes and he comes back with Major Nelson. And so I got a photo with him. Actually, I got two photos with him. And he was willing to talk to us for a couple of minutes, which was kind of nice. And he did, of course, exactly what you would expect him to do. He's like, "So, which games have you been playing? Which ones do you like?" And I told him, you know, what I've enjoyed so far. And then it dawned on me that this was the one time I was ever going to get the opportunity, probably in my life, to ask basically an Xbox representative, like a definitive one, a direct question about what I want to see on the Xbox One. And so I took that opportunity. It was a softball question too, honestly. I asked him, what were the chances, what are the odds that we are ever going to get an update for the Xbox One that allows it to play original Xbox games, you know, 6th gen original Xbox games. And I don't know if any of you have seen this clip out there that Angry Joe shot a couple of years ago, where he was talking to Major Nelson and he said something to the effect of like, you know, when it comes to the DRM, you know, I know you guys can remove that, it's very easy. And then Major Nelson took the microphone away from him and said, "Oh, you know it's really easy, huh? You're on the development team." You know, he got kind of in his face about it. I didn't have a microphone, but Major Nelson basically did the same thing to me. he was like, oh, so you think it's just really easy that we can just update the console to just play stuff like that? Do you have any idea what the technical difficulties of something like that is? And I was like, I didn't think it would be that much of a question, that much of an intense question. He wasn't like mad, he just seemed like annoyed. And he basically made it sound like that wasn't possible. And then I went like, well, wait a minute. The Xbox 360 played original Xbox games through emulation. Surely the Xbox One can do that. And it took a second, but after a couple of exchanges between us, I realized he thought I meant the Xbox 360 being played on the Xbox One. Once I re-explained myself and said, like, no, the first Xbox, the 6th gen Xbox, the first one you guys ever did, I want to see games for that. I want to see being able to play that on the Xbox One. I'm not talking about the Xbox 360. I know that's a different animal. And he just kind of stared at me for a second, like he had never been asked that question before. And then I got to give him props for this. I really do. Well, he just kind of goes, oh, the first one. No, we're not doing that. No. Like with it's not the answer I wanted. I wanted him to hear. I wanted him to say, like, actually, we are working on that. Or, do you really think people would want that? You know, I'll bring that up in the next meeting. I wanted to hear something like that, but he could have said something to the effect of like, well, you know, Microsoft's always working for the gaming experience of the Xbox, and we want to branch out. You know, he could have given me a political answer. So even though he didn't give me the answer I wanted, at least he gave me a direct answer to my question. No, we're not doing that. So for anybody who's curious if the Xbox One was ever going to be able to play original Xbox games, no. Major Nelson himself personally told me, no, not happening. Which is too bad, but hey, at least he was honest about it. So yeah, I talked to him for a little bit, and then we were kind of just, again, wandering around this area. And then all of a sudden, Microsoft, like, they just announced, like, hey, everybody, come out to this other area. And we're like, okay. And we come out, and they're like, we bought everybody dinner. They had bought they bought boxes and boxes and boxes of pizza for everybody. And then they said, like, over there's the refrigerator. Go take whatever you want. They'd stocked it with all sorts of drinks and everything. So here was my dinner, courtesy of Microsoft, which was an interesting trend because I don't think I paid for dinner one time in this entire trip, which was very cool. So yeah, they gave us that food, and then they brought out a dessert cart, and we just ate dessert off of it at Brownies. It was fucking awesome. It was really a great time. Now, we were gearing up to go because at this point we'd kind of played everything we wanted, and more people kept showing up. Microsoft kept bussing in more people, and at the same time you didn't need to be on the bus. Anybody with a car could just drive over there that day, park, and walk in, and they would give you a badge, and you could just go ahead and play whatever you wanted. So it was kind of crowded, and we were kind of like, we played everything we want to play. We might as well catch the next bus back. And the employee who had borrowed my SD card walks over to me. He's like, Adam Emery, because he was on a first-name basis with us at that point. And he's just like, hey, you know, we're shooting interviews with people who have played the games, and just we want to get like sound bites to see, you know, like what you guys think of the games and all that. I know you guys have played them. You've been here all day. Would you mind being in an interview? And we were like, hell yeah, we'll do that. So again, you might see me in some interview there. So again, if you see that, send me a link. I would love to see all this stuff. And they just asked us, you know, basic questions like which games did you like and all that. And then after that was over, we went out to the bus, and we were just standing there in line. And Microsoft, I got to give them seriously props for this whole thing. It was completely free admission. They kept just giving stuff away, and then it didn't end there. They actually said, like, all right, now that you're waiting in line, they just started whipping out free, you know, merch, and they just started giving us all this stuff. Now, I'll show you all the merch later. I'm going to do a second video on all the swag, if I'm allowed to use that word, of all the stuff I got. This is the only stuff you're going to see in this video. Sorry. So you can stay tuned to that if you want. But, yeah, they just kept giving us free stuff. And then we got on this bus, and then it took us back to the convention center. And we're like, wow, that was really a lot of fun. And went back to the hotel, went to bed. Next day, wake up, and it's our first day officially of the convention. So we go to the Machinima booth, and we had a recording session, a live recording session where we were all doing commentary while playing Mario Kart 8. We ended up playing that for like a good hour or so. And that was kind of all we did on our first work session.
I am here at PAX, and it is nuts.
So that first day actually was about the only time I got to actually explore the PAX convention. I know that's going to sound weird because I was there all weekend, but I was working most of the time, or I had something else to do, so I couldn't always do stuff. So at that point I was actually freed up for a while, and I went over and played Sonic Boom. I played it for the 3DS because the Wii U line was too long. Plus, honestly, I'm going to buy it for the Wii U regardless, so might as well try the 3DS version. And then the same thing with Super Smash Brothers. I got to play that for the 3DS. Would have preferred the Wii U version, but again, buying the Wii U version regardless, so might as well try the 3DS version. Got to play Oculus Rift. That was really cool. The way Oculus Rift worked was that they had this giant line that kind of wandered around the Oculus Rift section, and they had, I believe it was 16 units all set up. But each one was playing different. I think every 2 units was playing different games, so there was a total of like, 8 games. And so you had no control over what game you were going to end up at. It's just when you end up at the front of the line, they just put you on the next available unit. Unfortunately, while some of the games looked really good, they put me one that really wasn't very good. The unit was nice, the experience was nice, I liked playing the Oculus Rift, but the game itself wasn't very good. The game they put me on was one where you're in like a room, and just to the left of you there is a hallway. And you can walk out and you're completely unarmed. Now when you get out into the hallway, there's 3 guys at the end of the hallway, and they're all shooting at you. And your objective is to get halfway down the hallway, pick up a gun that's on the floor, and pick it up and shoot them. Not that great, honestly, because it was frustratingly difficult to actually get to the gun and shoot them. At least that was my experience with it. I did eventually do it, but it was like, there were some other games that looked like really cool platformers and other games that really kind of did something creative. This game was just kind of like felt like a tech demo. It didn't feel like a game, so that was unfortunate. But nevertheless, I did enjoy the Oculus Rift, so that was cool. At that point, actually, I was out of time, believe it or not. If you've ever been to a convention like this, it takes a lot of time to do anything. It's just there's so many people there, lines are so long that you don't get to do that many things. Plus we had to leave a little bit early because we had a private party we were going to that Machinima was hosting at like a pub. So we went over there and they let us in, of course, and we just got to have free dinner. Again, I told you, I don't think I paid for dinner once this entire trip. Maybe I did pay for one meal, but not a dinner. But yeah, so here's a quick picture of my dinner. I know, that's super exciting. So we're continuing to hang out at the event, well, the party, whatever. And of all people, Matt from Matt and Pat show up. Now, they are actually buddies of ours. We've worked with them before, but we had never actually met them prior to this. And so we were hanging out with Matt for a while. And we were just, chatting, shooting the shit. And then eventually the party, dies down and we leave, we go back to our hotel room, go to bed, whatever. And then the next day, again, we go to the Machinima booth right away. Unfortunately, I was the only one of my cohorts who showed up on time. We had a thing at, I think it was noon, and we were just supposed to do a live performance again. We were supposed to hold up microphones and just kind of entertain the crowd, get people to come over to the Machinima booth, check out what we're doing. And the way that worked was that one of our guys, his name Jason Stevens, is a voice actor, a very good one, who does impressions of a lot of celebrities: Christopher Walken, Morgan Freeman, John Madden, Arnold Schwarzenegger, President Obama, and so on. And he was supposed to just talk like celebrities and supposed to do commentary over video games and all that. But none of my cohorts showed up until like 12:15. I was the only one. I was early and I was just sitting there. So for like 15 minutes I had to do this all by myself. So I whipped out a couple of Mickey Mouse impressions, like, "Oh, hi everybody, check out the Machinima booth," stuff like that. I just kind of did my best to hold it together because without them around it was difficult. But eventually they did show up, and we ended up doing like an autograph session for a good 15-20 minutes or so. We had brought little cards that people could get signed if they wanted to take them and keep them. And then we just did more game recording. And then what was cool about that is as soon as it was over, Machinima had hooked us up with a private meetup with the guys over at Evolve, 2K Games specifically. We were going to get to play Evolve. Now, if you haven't seen Evolve, it's kind of hard to, because I think all that's out there right now are trailers. Machinima hooked it up in such a way that we were going to be playing privately in like a booth where the public was not allowed, versus two best friends play. It was going to be Game Society Pimps versus two best friends play, like their whole team versus our whole team. And it was very cool. There was a private room full of, I think it was like 5 PCs, and the way the game works is that you play as like 4 Marine dudes versus a monster. And the monster is obviously more powerful than any one of the 4 guys, but the 4 guys can theoretically overpower the monster. And it's just a cool game. It really was just a cool, fun experience. And so we ended up playing that versus them. We won both times. It was really, when we played as the Monster, we won. When we played as the Marines, we won. Go Team Game Society. But yeah, they also let us capture the footage. Like, they had actually set it up. What we didn't know until we were basically ready to leave was, oh, by the way, all of your gameplay was recorded. We're giving you the footage. You guys can be like the first guys out there to make videos of this. So keep an eye out for that on Game Society Pimps. We will have videos of Evolve when no one else does. But yeah, that game was a shit ton of fun. I definitely look out for Evolve when that one comes out. But yeah, we played against them and hung out with them for a little bit, Matt and Pat specifically. And then after that was over, we basically just kind of wandered around for the rest of the day. I think at that point is when I went and I did the only game hunting experience I did in the entire trip, which, again, you'll see a video about that later. And then that evening, we were going to go to a private session of Cards Against Humanity. Now, Cards Against Humanity, I'm sure a lot of you guys know that game. If you don't, you should really look it up. The guys who make it actually live here in Chicago, where I live. And they're actually friends with a guy, my buddy Aaron Yanda, who is a member, of course, of Game Society. There's actually a cartoon illustration of him there. This show, Beer and Board Games, that I work on. They've actually been on that show. And they decided, through that connection, that they were going to have their own like private beer and board games of sorts at a club out there in Seattle. And Aaron got us backstage passes to get into it. And so we're like, okay, sure. We got there, and again, dinner was provided for free. Yeah, free dinner. So it was really good. It was like Chinese food. I don't think it was Chinese exactly, but you know, it was something very similar. It was very, very good. That was all I can remember exactly. But here, I'll show you. But yeah, anyway, so we ended up not really staying very long. Once we ate food, we were kind of like, well, we're not performing in it, and we've seen this a bunch of times, and we've done this before, so fuck it, let's just go back and go do something else. And so we ended up going back to the hotels and like playing board games on our own. It was a lot of fun. Before that wraps up, actually, I got to step back. I want to show you one thing that I thought was really cool. When we went back to the hotel to play board games, I actually went out to a Starbucks. Yes, another Starbucks. Not the Starbucks, not this Starbucks. But I went to one right by the convention center that was actually selling an exclusive drink just for that weekend called The Kong. Now, what this drink was a mocha thing with like chocolate whipped cream, and inside it had like chocolate chips and a banana all cut up and like toffee shots. Retardedly good. Obviously terrible for you, but I wanted to get it just because it was something they were only doing that weekend and it was video game based. I don't know, I thought it was neat. But after that, I eventually went to bed and all that. Next day, once again went to the Machinima booth, but rather than play games and do like a live session, this time what we did was something a little bit different. We did a comment reading session where we had just come up with some comments that people posted on our videos, you know, things that people say that are stupid, that are kind of funny to read out loud. Did that. That went over really well. And then we decided to do another like autograph type of session / give shit away session. See, Machinima and everyone else who runs booths like that, they bring a ton of merchandise with them, shall we call it swag, to give away to people. Machinima had actually not been giving enough away. They realized like they were pretty much down to the last day there, and they still had a crap ton of stuff. So I got this idea where I was like, well, why don't we do like a Q&A session with celebrities? You know, I mean, Jason will do the voice of, you know, Morgan Freeman or John Madden or Obama or whatever. And people will line up, we'll ask them questions, and then if they get it right, they just get something. But then we also decided, what if no matter what they say, they get it right? So he would ask them trivia that didn't make sense or was totally impossible, and they would always just get it right. Like, you know, as Morgan Freeman would be like, all right, when I was in Shawshank Redemption, what was the name of my cat? If someone said, like, you didn't have a cat, congratulations, here's a shirt. If someone's made up a name like, oh, your cat's name was Milo? They don't know. And you're like, correct, my cat's name was Milo, here's a shirt. And you always just give them a shirt, or you give them a pair of sunglasses, or I think we were at one point, we were giving away Xbox 360 skins and PS3 skins that had Machinima logo all over it. It was really a lot of fun. It was a good way to bring a lot of traffic to the booth and meet people. Got to meet some people that watched our stuff, had watched my channel, which was very nice. People who watch Beer and Board Games, people who watch Game Society. It was very, very cool. After that wrapped up, the next thing was pretty cool. We weren't planning on this, but Machinima had actually hooked us up with a private session with Bethesda. Now, Bethesda had two big games that they were on display there. One was The Evil Within, and the other one was one called Battlecry. Now, Evil Within, they were both publicly playable, but through our connection at Machinima, we basically go straight to the front of the line to play The Evil Within, and we got to play it as long as we wanted, as opposed to most people were limited to a timed demo. That game, awesome as shit. It's not what I expected. I expected it to be more Skyrim-y, you know, kind of open world-ish. It was more linear, and it was third-person perspective. But it was a really cool horror game, and I think that'll be a day one buy for me. That was really very cool. So we played that for a while, and once we I'm not going to say we got tired of it because we didn't, but we decided they wanted us to play Battlecry because they wanted us to shoot a video for them. So we were like, sure. So we stopped playing Evil Within, and we went over to their Battlecry section. Now, Battlecry is a game that they had apparently just announced and just debuted for the first time ever at PAX. They let us shoot footage of them like interacting and their setup. We got a little bit of footage of the screen that was displaying the game. I'm not allowed to show you that footage specifically, but I'm allowed to show you like the booth and stuff. And what we did was, again, our buddy Jason did celebrity impressions and was just pretending he was different celebrities watching and reacting to the game. My cohorts, Aaron and Emery, played the game on the same team as the developers versus a bunch of fans, and I filmed the whole thing. And then afterwards, they just gave us a bunch of free stuff. It was really very cool. We left there to go bring stuff back to our hotels because we were all carrying a bunch of things, and then we wanted to come back and do something else. While we were out, we got a message from one of the indie developers who really wanted to meet us. So we went over to the indie booth with not a whole lot of time left because the convention closes at 6. And at this point it was like 5:40. And they do not fuck around. They kick you out at 6. So we went back into the convention center. We went over to this indie booth. And this guy really wanted us to play his game. He didn't care if we did a video or anything. He just really wanted us to play his game. So we did. And the game was an Oculus Rift game. And for the longest time, I've been unsure of what the future of the Oculus Rift is, if it has any real shot of doing anything. You know, like, it's a very neat thing, but does it really have a place in gaming? I don't know. But this one might have convinced me that there is going to be a market for this. Because my issue with the Oculus Rift has always been that it seems very unlikely that people would want to hook all this stuff up and just play by themselves. But this guy came up with a really good idea. The idea was that it's a two-person game. It's almost like a board game. One person has the Oculus Rift on, and he's looking at a bomb that needs to be defused. And the other guy cannot see the bomb, but he has like a sheet that has all the information on the bomb. So the guy with the goggles will have to say like, okay, it's got 4 lights, not 5, the lights are all green, not blue, you know, that kind of thing. He has to just differentiate, and the guy has to check off which things apply and which don't. And then he tells him which wire to cut based on that information, and you either succeed by defusing the bomb or it blows up and you lose. Simple concept, and it was a hell of a lot of fun. And I think games like that could have huge potential in like party scenarios. I don't know, that's just me. I think that was very, very cool. So that was actually the last thing I got to play at PAX, because I wasn't there for the final day of it, just due to bad scheduling on my part. And yeah, that was a lot of fun. Now, but my time was not over. No. So here's what happens later that night. We get a message from our representative at Machinima. He's like, hey, Obsidian Games is throwing a private party. Do you guys want to go? And we were like, we got nothing else to do. Let's go. Sure. So we go out to this party, and it's at like this warehouse-looking thing that was in every way the stereotype of like what you've seen on TV about what a club is, you know, like nightclubs and stuff. And I don't mean to detract from anybody who actually goes to nightclubs. Personally, I never go to them. But this is the first time I was ever in that kind of scenario. And what I mean by that is there's always, oh, the hot girls all just get in, and the cool-looking dudes all get in, and the nerds never get in. Like, that's how that works. Now, of course, this is hosted by Obsidian Games, so you're going to have nerds. But my cohorts and I stand out as nerds amongst nerds. So we were rejected. So we get up to the front, and our representative gets in because he's got this old blue pass. And he's like, these guys can't go in. And the representative's like, hang on, my friend's the one running the party, I'll be right back. And he comes back with 4 blue passes. He's like, all right, now let them in. And the guy's like, because he has no choice, we got the blue passes at that point. So he stamps our arm and lets us in. Which was funny to get rejected amongst nerds. Yeah, that's super nerdism right there. But So we get into this party, and the way I can describe this party was, it was like a dark circus. It was like something out of a Stanley Kubrick movie. You know, you had people dressed up in like they were in the 15th century or something, juggling and talking very oddly. People just dancing on tables and shit, doing weird stuff. There was a guy swallowing swords. There was a guy like spitting fire, you know, just weird shit. There was a giant mannequin of an elephant. It was fucking weird, but it was really cool. Now, there was the public area that anyone who's not nerdy enough can get into, and then there was the VIP area, which is what we got into. Thank you, Blue Pass from Machinima. We got into that room, and once again, dinner was provided. Yeah, free dinner again! So I get in there, I have my dinner, and now here's something you may not know about me. Despite working on a show called Beer and Board Games, I actually don't drink. So when you get up to the bar part, yeah, I'm not gonna have any alcohol. Nothing against alcohol, I've just never been interested. I don't hate it or anything, I've never liked the taste of it, I don't enjoy it, I don't know, I've just never been that into it. So I'm always asking you these kind of things like, yeah, do you have anything that's not alcoholic? I mean, I come off like a fucking nerd. That's probably why the guy rejected us. He could tell one of us didn't drink and it was me. But yeah, so I asked him, he's like, well, we got soda. I'm like, well, I don't drink soda either, because I used to be addicted to soda, so like no Coke, no Pepsi, I don't drink that shit anymore. And so he's like, well, I have the cranberry juice I mix into some of the drinks. Do you want that? And I was like, yes, I'll take that. So there I am, fucking nerd, drinking just cranberry juice amongst a bunch of, you know, other people. I don't know. Now, I'm wandering around this party some more, and you'll never believe who I see. Well, you'll believe it in a second, but I ran into Angry Joe. Yeah, that Angry Joe. He had his definitive jacket and his definitive, like, Superman shirt on, and I talked to him for a second, and I was just like, oh man, I'm a big fan of your videos, you know? And he was like, oh, that's really cool, thank you. And we were both walking into the VIP area at the exact same time. And I said, I know this is kind of douchey of me, but do you mind if I get a photo with you? He's like, oh dude, that's not douchey at all, come on, we'll take a photo. So we get together for this photo, and his buddy holds my camera. And you have to understand, this room is bright red. Okay, bright red. And my camera flashed, and I thought it had taken the photo. But it had taken a photo of a red, all red photo that I had kind of posed for. And just as I'm backing away, like as I thought the photo was taken, then it took another photo that compensated for all the red. So the good photo, I looked disinterested, whereas the bad photo, I was more interested. So anyway, I'm talking to him for a little bit, and I tell him the story I told you at the beginning of this video about how I met up with Major Nelson and how he did that thing to me that he had done to him. He found that fucking hilarious. And yeah, very nice guy, very genuinely cool, and it was really an honor to meet him. And then we hung around the party for a little bit, and then eventually went back to our hotels, you know, nothing super exciting. And next day I flew back home. And that was my PAX experience. I didn't get to play nearly as many games as I wanted to, just due to time constraints and the fact that I was working on a lot of the stuff, but I really hope I get to go back next year. I got to do way more cool shit than I ever thought I would get. I got a crap ton of free stuff, which again, I'm going to show you guys all this free stuff in a second video, just because I didn't want to bog this one down more than it already is. So, yeah, and I want to say a special shout out to a guy named Caleb.
Hey, Adam Carolla's YouTube is pretty awesome. You should totally watch it and like it and subscribe.
He was the first person ever in the United States to just recognize me for my videos and be like, oh, you're Adam Corley. Shout out to you, dude. That was fucking awesome. Thank you for that. I've never experienced that before. Experienced it in the UK a lot for some reason, but not in the US, so that was really nice. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all later.